Sometimes when I ask my clients, do you believe you can do anything? Most of them say no, that they do not. And they just need to believe that they can. It's all what you believe. It's all in your mind. If you believe you can do it, you can do it.
Mhm.
You know? So I think an affirmation poster in a child's bedroom, positive phrases that children need to believe about themselves. And it's amazing when you start as a child and you look in and have them look in the mirror and tell themselves, I am smart. I am beautiful. I am capable. Those things go a long way later on in life. Their self-esteem goes through the roof.
Hi, friends. It's Diane here at Someone Gets Me. And today we're going to talk about a heavy topic, but also one that for me can bring great relief. We're talking about gifted healing grief. Now, grief is a really big topic and there's so much to it, but I have an expert with us. Her name is Sandy Harrison, and she's been dealing in the grief world and helping people heal grief for a very long time, and as have I. So like we have this great thing in common and we have great friends in common. So we met each other through a mutual friend and hit it off right away. So Sandy's really cool. Another cool thing about her that you're going to learn about is that she wrote this really amazing book that I have read that I find to be very profound for your gifted youngsters. So though it applies to adults, if you're listening to me and you have a gifted child or younger person going through some grief and you're not really sure how to help them, Sandy's the person for you. So I want to welcome you to the show, Sandy. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here with us on Someone Gets Me.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here.
We're going to have such a blast. And so get your coffee or get your tea. I have my tea right here. And so we always want to have our favorite beverage because it's warming and cool, right? So Sandy, let's start off for a minute about you've been in the therapy world and helping people for like your whole career. So what started you? What was the impetus that got you going into saying, I want to help other people? How did it start?
You mean when I was a little girl?
Whenever it started.
You mean wanting to be a social worker?
Uh-huh.
Always knew that. Always knew that. Uh-huh. And my parents, when I was 18, they registered me in nursing school. And I said, no way. I can't touch people's bodies, but I'd like to touch their minds. That's what I want to do. And so it took me many years. I went back for my master's when I was 40, and then got my license in social work. And I've been working in the field ever since.
That is really great. So how old were you when you were a youngster when you realized you wanted to be a social worker? Like 5, 6, 8?
No, like eight. Like
8 years old. Wow. That is really cool. That reminds me of my nephew, where ever since he was a little kid, he goes, I'm going to fly planes in the military. I'm going to fly planes in the military. And he's in the military. And I'm like, how did he know that when he was so young? And he knew it with authority. It wasn't, a guesswork thing. And that's what it sounds like with you too. That's really fun. I love it. So what's your favorite part about helping people?
My favorite part is seeing their faces, and after it's all over, and for me, it doesn't have, it has to be, I have to feel like I've made a difference in someone's life. And so I try really, really hard when I'm speaking with people to find out what they need and try to make sure that I can make a difference in their life.
That is so beautiful and is so needed in the world these days. So I love success stories. So is there anybody that pops in your head or, obviously without confidential information, but like a scenario of something that really lights up your heart when you're helping a person with a certain topic or something?
Well, with this book has come a long way with helping children. And I've received many, many reviews. And a recent review that I received was that the little boy, his grandmother died, and he took her blanket, and he kept the blanket with, after she died, kept the blanket with him, and would say to people, hey, you're standing on my grandmother, or you're sitting on my grandmother. So that blanket was his grandmother. And his mother bought my book, and he read it. And he said to his mom, does it make you feel really good that grandma's watching over us? And she said, yes, it does. And so they read the book together, and the mother said, yes, she said, this book has comforted me as well as my son, because now, whenever, in one of the parts of the book says, whenever you think of me, I will be there with you. And so that, to me, that's the whole reason that I wrote it. And that's one of the ways that I make a difference, I feel.
Oh, that's beautiful. When did you start working with people about grief? Like, you wanted to be a social worker since you were little, but how did the whole helping people through grief evolve?
When I was in college, I told my professor I wanted to work with terminally ill patients. And she said, no, you have to do other things first. You have to get other experience first. So I did my internships in mental hospitals and really liked that. And then had a lot of different experiences. And then after about maybe 7 or 8 years, joined hospice.
Oh, that's really important, you know. So the definition of grief, everybody, is a conflicting mass of human emotion that follows any significant change in behavior. So not all grief is because of somebody passing. In fact, when we significantly change our behavior, even if it's to something desirable, there is a process of grief that follows. And so it's a very important thing to understand that there's much more to healing of grief than just handling the fact that somebody might be leaving our lives for whatever reason. And so it's important that we all realize that as we move forward, especially for gifted people. Now, Sandy, what is your best tip, I guess I could say, for somebody who's very intellectually curious and emotionally intense? What are some things they can do to help themselves through healing any kind of grief?
Well, it's very important to attend a bereavement group, because then you know that other people are going through what you're going through, and they can share experiences. And I think that's very important. Also, they need to share their feelings. They can't keep them bottled up. They really need to share their feelings with other people. I think a lot of people don't like to open up, but I think that's a key thing. The thing that helped me was journaling, writing it down, writing my feelings down, and that's how I started writing.
Oh, that's really cool. And I think it's so true. Group is so important. Having more than one person around and seeing that you're not alone in it all, and sharing things even when they're difficult, I think is really also very important, because keeping things bottled up creates physical distress at the very least, if not mental distress too. And so those are really important tips. And so those of y'all who think that it's okay to hold everything in, or you've learned the traditional Western pattern of suck it up, you're smart, you can figure it out, and hold it all in, that's not noble, and it doesn't work. In fact, it can make you sicker. So the people who are in the know understand that we use grief and healing of grief and in a community, in a way, that it takes other people with us and connecting with us in that way, listening in a way that is meaningful. And so I think what Sandy's saying is like really true. And I think it's really important that we realize that we can't do it alone. Because gifted people were taught that we should be able to do it alone. And since we're more sensitive and we have different needs, it's even more important that we have other people in our corner who understand the grief process, period. I can't say that any more strongly without yelling, I guess. So Sandy wrote this really cool book, and the book is called The Memory Box at Elephant Rock, which I think is the coolest name ever. I love this book. And when I got the book in the mail, because she sent me a copy and it's autographed, I feel so lucky. I started reading and I'm like, oh my gosh, this little boy in here, he's gifted. How fun is this to read about the process of grief for a gifted child? So Sandy, you have the book there, right? So will you show everybody the book? If you're all watching us on YouTube, you can see the book. And if you're listening to us, you can go on her website, which is linked in the show notes, and see the book. Thank you, Sandy. So I think it's important that we realize that there are resources for us. So Sandy, tell us a little bit about how this book came to be and what you see as the book moves forward, because I know we've talked about it, that there's other books coming down the pike, right? So tell us a little bit about the whole kind of how this all happened, the organic process of it all, because I think it's fascinating. It's beautiful.
In 2017, my younger brother died, and it was sudden. He was very healthy, and he died while on the golf course. He was 61 years old, and it was a shock to everyone. And shortly after that, I started writing, I guess in 2018, and I wrote a total of 4 books. My brother's the star of the book, and they're all dedicated to him. Yeah, he was my younger brother. I think I felt that I should have been there to protect him. And I was in Florida and he was in New Jersey. So I wasn't there when it happened, but it took a profound toll on everyone in our family.
So what did you do to heal your grief? You wrote the book, you journaled. What else? What other things you did? Because that's profound, that you lose your younger brother and you have to deal with that feeling that maybe you should have or could have done something. So how did you handle that as a social worker?
Well, at the exact same time, actually, I was working for the Children's Bereavement Center, and I was working with the children one week and adults the next week. And the children didn't want to talk about their feelings. The only way that we got them to talk was with hands-on activities like arts and crafts, puppet shows, all different things to get them to talk. And it's amazing. Children will not talk themselves, but if they have a puppet, they'll talk through the puppet, which is really amazing to me. So that was one of the things. The other thing was that the people in the adult group did not really know how to help their children. They were at a loss as to what to do. So that program was wonderful. And then that summer I went to grief camp. And slept in the cabins with the kids and had so much fun. And that was about memorializing the people who died. And they had balloon releases and all kinds of amazing things for the children to do. And that was about 3 days, but it was amazing. And it really made a big, big impression on me. So those things actually helped me get through my grief, because I did that for a few years after his death. And I was thinking, gee, this is helping me as well, as I was facilitating the groups, it wasn't anything that I had planned. It just happened.
Oh, that's beautiful. I've had that happen to me too, running groups, and we're talking about different things or whatever, and somebody brings up something or something happens within the group. And I'm like, wow, I just really got this really great healing out of this. And that was not how it started, or not what I thought was going to happen anyway. Yeah. Oh, that's really, really cool. I love that story. That's beautiful. So tell us a little bit about the book.
The book is about facing your fears, believing in yourself and facing a loss. It's about a relationship between an uncle and a boy, and the fact that their love goes on forever, even after death. The story shows the significance of a memory box and the value of letter writing to help with grief.
That's great. I love that. So what experience, now I like to talk about personal things too, because I think the book is really cool. And I know that we see everything in the world through our own autobiography. And we know that grief is healed when we can bring up the memory and it no longer controls our emotions. We can remember it without it controlling us, right? And so if you were to look at your own life, what is something about anything in your life, it doesn't have to do with necessarily have to do with the book or grief, that you look back on and you say, wow, that was a really transformative time or moment in my life. So this thing really made an impact on me.
There's so many things.
Pick one or two, just, something that really has meaning to you. Whatever pops in your head first, that's what I'm interested in.
I think when I was about 30, I started a daycare center in my home for people that were working shift work. It was in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and they had no one to watch their children from 3 to 11 and 11 to 7. So I started a 24-hour daycare center. I started out with 5 children, and it grew to 30 in my home. And then I had to move out because had to move the business out because the state inspector said, you can't have all these children here. I had 1 helper with me. Then we went to my church and we grew to 50. And then I went to the second floor of a high school building, and that was 75 children. And we became a kindergarten, and it was transformative. It really was for me, because I was able to help all these children in this community where they had no one, that could watch their children. And it was a real problem, for them. And I was able to help them out and to do that. And that for me was a wonderful thing.
I love that. See, you've been a helper all along. Like you said, ever since you were little, you're finding the way to make a positive impact, and I know that those parents now, many years later, can look back on that time and feel grateful for you and what you did, and what you created for them. So working with people with grief can be very stressful and take a lot out of us. So what do you do to take care of Sandy?
I meditate daily. I try to think positive. I get massages. I try to do a lot of things for myself, but mostly stay positive. And whenever you get a negative thought, change it into a positive. So I found that really, really helps me.
Oh, that's great. Having the right mindset, as they say, right? Being able to, and willing. I think it takes willingness, don't you think, in order to make the change? Because sometimes people get a lot of mileage, I guess you could say, out of holding on to the thing that's causing them harm, and with the false belief that they'll get more attention or they'll get their needs met, when really it pushes away the very thing they want. So I think taking care of paying attention to this neighborhood in our own mind is really, really critical. So what kinds of things do you like to do for fun?
Lately, I've been really working a lot. I've been really.
Well, you love helping people, so that's a fun thing. But like, what do you do to decompress?
It is. I love spending time with my family and going places. Years ago, I was working at a hospice where all the people got together and wanted to jump out of an airplane. And that was something I've always wanted to do. So we did it, and it was a fantastic experience. And so I like to find new things to do, things that I haven't done before.
Daredevils that you are. You just reminded me, I raced boats with this guy, and he has his t-shirt and it says jumps out of perfectly good airplanes. Oh my word, that's so fun. I love it. That is great. Now I lost my train of thought for a second because I'm still on this jumping out of an airplane thing. So another question that I'm curious about, because I think it really matters that people realize that those of us who are helpers, that we're like people too, that we didn't just land here in this helping place. We had to go through our own healing journey in order to get to a place where we could effectively help another person. So what would you say would be a pivotal moment in your own process to get yourself ready to deal with intense grief all the time with people? How did you do your work?
One of my favorite jobs prior to grief was working in a mental hospital. And I did work in a state mental hospital. And for me, it was very interesting because the population was pretty much 75% schizophrenics. And they would come in and they were having a horrible time. And after they got on medication, they were like you and I. And that was amazing to me because actually you would see them on the street and they would kid with you. There was so many things that it just, to me, that was transformative. I also got to sit in with the psychiatrists on their interviews, and we were a team, and ask them questions and find out how their brain works and all that. So that I loved that job. That was my favorite job, and that was a transformative job for me.
Oh, that's cool. So what was your most memorable food you've ever eaten?
Spaghetti. Homemade spaghetti with my Italian grandmother's sauce.
There you go. Italian grandmother's sauce. So that was probably like the best sauce in the world then, right?
Yes.
Cool. Did she put meatballs in it or just marinara?
Oh, yeah. Meatballs and sausage. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, nice. Perfect. Great. So grounding is a really important part of grieving, learning how to be grounded, which is why we have a forest in my background. And so what kinds of things do you do to ground yourself so that you can kind of not be anxious or floating out in the world, as I would say? How does Sandy ground herself?
Meditation
Mm-hmm.
is key. And I'm also a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and that keeps me grounded. I love that. I love speaking to people and trying to help people through hard times, through therapy. I really enjoy that. So that's kind of that. My therapy is therapy for me also.
Right. Okay. That makes sense to me. I know that I've said before in my career, because I've been doing this work for a long time, and I've said before that when I'm serving other people and helping them from my authentic space, then I'm totally aligned and standing in my sovereignty and everything's flowing. But if that gets off for whatever reason, then it's easy to feel kind of nihilistic, like not quite together. And I think that's kind of what you're saying here is like, people don't realize sometimes that when we're helping someone, we're also getting benefit, right? And so I've had people say, "Oh, I don't want to bother you with my things." I'm like, no, that's actually helpful. Even if I'm in crisis, it's helpful for me to help, even no matter what's going on with me.
Yes.
And so that it's so funny. People think they're adding to us, but really they're not. A problem shared with another person is halved.
Mm-hmm.
You share it in a group, it's cut up by the whole group.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so important to realize that message in our mind that we don't want to burden somebody else, so we'll hold it all in, is a lie that we have been taught by this culture.
Mm-hmm.
And if you live by that lie, you pay a lot of negative consequences. Thus the importance of this book, thus the importance of working on yourself. And if you're going through grief, remember, it's a conflicting mass of human emotion following any significant change of behavior. So we're talking about moving, getting engaged, getting married, somebody dying, changing jobs, right? All of these things are part of grieving. Like I worked with a couple one time, they were good friends. I was actually in their wedding, and they went on this really nice honeymoon, and they lived together and dated a long time before they got married. So it wasn't like a shotgun wedding at all. And they came back from their honeymoon, and it wasn't very long after that the husband called me without the wife knowing and saying that they were really having a hard time. And then the wife called me without the husband knowing, saying they were really having a hard time. And so I finally suggested to both of them that they suggest to the other one of them that we all have a conversation. And so they did. Oh, it was a really kind of funny. And so I go over there and we're talking about it. And it all came down to grieving their previous life. That now that they're married, there's a different reality when you have somebody else engaged in the conversation, like who's going to take out the trash. That was one of the big things, is her belief system about who takes out the trash and his belief system were not the same. So part of the grieving process for them, even though they were happy they got married, it was a good experience, but they still had to grieve the old way. So not all grief starts out with pain. Sometimes it starts out with something great that then we have to adjust to, and that adjustment, that conflicting mass of emotion, is grief. So it's an important thing to realize, which is why, like Sandy said, it's important that we have group and community that can listen and understand, and that we process through things by sharing and by journaling and doing things that are good for us. Is there anything you wanted to share that I haven't asked you about?
Yes. Affirmations.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The book is about facing your fears and believing in yourself. And one of the key lines in the book is, you can do anything, you just have to believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a theme that goes through all the books. And it's very important. Sometimes when I ask my clients, do you believe you can do anything? Most of them say no, that they do not. And they just need to believe that they can. It's all what you believe. It's all in your mind. If you believe you can do it, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think an affirmation poster in a child's bedroom where, affirmations are just, positive phrases that children need to believe about themselves. And it's amazing when you start as a child and you look in and have them look in the mirror and tell themselves, I am smart. I am beautiful. I am capable. Those things go a long way later on in life. Their self-esteem goes through the roof.
Mm-hmm. And it's important, just like Sandy said, them first person present tense.
Yes.
I am, not I'm going to be.
Yes.
Or I will be. We don't want to put it in the future. We keep it In first person present tense, I am. I teach people I am beautiful, lovable, and capable. And there's many others. You can make up your own, but make sure it's first person present tense. All right. So the final question, ready? If we were going to put a billboard up that the entire world was going to see, that was going to have your message to the world, what would that billboard say?
What I just said.
Sure.
Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. You can do anything as long as you believe in yourself.
You can do anything as long as you believe in yourself.
Yep.
Beautiful. I love it. All right. So thank you, everybody, for listening as Someone Gets Me. I know that you really loved everything Sandy had to say, like I did. So in the show notes, you will find her bio. You will find links to how to follow her on social media and the link to buy the book. I suggest that you buy the book, because even if you don't know anybody who is going through grief now, you will, because we all do. And it's a great book. So all that's in the show notes. And until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, remember to keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you are a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So go out there and let your light shine and see where it takes you in the world. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Diane saying, be well.